Julie here with Sirius Talis Moon, and this is where I talk about the core of birthing is the notion of, when I talk about orgasmic birthing, as the grand vision. And when I think about resolving chaos or resolving disorder, it's this is the core thing. Nobody's place is nobody's a livestock. Nobody's place is, how should I say that? Everybody is a legacy. And even to fast, people need to be already treated in that way so that they can, let's say, fast. Um, the womb cathedral. Exactly. We can, you know, the context of the Magnum Mundi is in the bigger context of occultism, and we cannot be in womb cathedrals raping women, raping children. And this is the wider. If Tima Mundi was tapping into the birthing of the world, then Magnum Mundi already addresses that in an even bigger spectrum. Um, this was the inside of a natal chart. We only see the stained glass patterns glowing from the outside, not the luminous source within. This is something I talked about soul alignment the other day. Is the circle competence, the wheel entire. Every constituent part is in its place. Um, yeah, and nobody's place is to get a jobby job that would cause them cancer, or to pretend that they can be in a place that is not really accommodating for them, which is their legacy, their life, their grand vision, their the alternative is the Epstein ring. And when people connect with that soul path, they identify way more that those steps towards, it's like, yeah, let's say I apply to a job. Amazing. What does this business what is this business willing to do to grant for women rights, women freedom, um, their accessibility to housing, both when they are working and if they're sick or if they're unable to work. Like that's building that's building something. Nobody's place in the world is less than. And I think the eclipses that we're going to see in Northern Africa are going to be acutely accentuating that. And they're going to send a profound recognition to the inner core, both of Christianity, but also Judaic traditions. Because Israel has certain weird enterprises there. And the Jews have been told, when you have slavery in your religion, and over again, as the Christians have been told, Inquisition is not a mission. Um, gaps get filled, relationships deepen, things and people move into place they fit best. Um, yeah, as per one's life. But here's the thing: when we make something that's pertaining to the world, people can move. Let's just say people can move. How should I say that? Um, I don't have to sleep with the president, but the president has to have a policy that has to account also for me. And my place is not my place in his, let's say, intimate or personal life, or the lack of, is not how should I say that? Is not um, something that can justify me having a challenge to find my place in the world without being literally threatened. And this speaks for literally every single individual across bloodlines, across cultures, across. That's when we think about the world, that's what it means. I began to talk about it right at the Tema Mundi. The first thing I saw was Opus Dei. I looked for the magnum opus, and then there was a book that was an audio book that pertained all the 33 degrees of the Masonry, and it was by the name was the mistaken name, and the belief that only some people can be free. While the occult keeps working with the whole world. Okay, those two don't combine. And we had that, I think, Neptune in Aries, and we talk about the abolition of slavery on a global scale. Yes, but and it's also internal to the. An order where there is rape is not an order. By the way, nor is it cows. Um, Magnum Money brings this quality to life. Get gap filled, relations deepen, things and people fall into place they fit best. The actions are cleaning, repair, and rearrangement, and they result in greater stability, strength, ease, and durability. It cannot be that a woman has to contend with dishonoring of her life essence, or a man for the sake. That is not peace. That is something that compounds to a world collapse. And they result in greater stability, strength, and durability. Perfect circle structure helps find a place for difficult experiences because within the wheel entire there are already places for grief, hardship, and loss. Again, all of these things are very meaningful, but also was needed to abolish rape because otherwise people are left in a stagnant, and then they're like, it's like, oh, what's the bigger picture of abolish rape? The even bigger picture of abolish rape. The even bigger picture of abolish rape. Okay, we do nothing without abolish rape. If you're birthing life, don't rape them. If there is rape around that, it will show up to abolish rape so that life can grow. What is rape? Enslavement is rape, but also modern slavery is rape. Trying to get a person to do a job that is not them. Trying to get a person for the trajectory that is them to be raped as part of the job. None of that can sustain. None of that can. Everything will compound to destruction as long as those methods exist. Wow. The actions are cleaning, repair, rearrangement. They are not a violation of the sacred pattern, but already perfectly addressed by it. But yeah, this is why orgasmic birthing is returning and returning and returning and returning and returning and returning and returning. The microcosmic orbit and so on. While MM is the circle complete, TM is the first ray of light fully extended into 7 colors and not yet curved back on itself. Thinking about Uranus said now, it was on my Chiron, 1 degree Gemini. I think it was with the Mercury incorporation. Venus Beta per se. TM is a word. It is an out-breath of creation, and while compounded of a full complement of forces, it's meaningfully simpler and more direct than Magnum Mundi, the first ray of light. And this is kind of like the full picture. If life has room to grow, yawns wide with absence, or is just beginning a new arc, Tima Mundi's creative potency is useful. It rushes forth to fill available space with idea. And by the way, abolishing rape along all line of production is going to create the right currency and the wealth. Design energy and manifestation. It nurtures projects in their infancy, provides the trust to get things off the ground, and offers the support to move into phases and spaces. It is the energy of the great beginning. Ever present in each little beginning. If you're in the middle of an arc, life is full, perhaps too much so. Metamundi is appropriate as it engages with the complexity of life in motion. It addresses the disorder of a busy life by guiding things back to their best place, cleaning away accumulated detritus, and restoring right relationships. Perhaps most importantly, it facilitates our reestablishment in the center of the circle, the seed point of emanation, abiding there with our reason for setting the wheel in motion. We cannot help but understand its turning. Freedom call. Okay. Ganesha. Was working with Ganesha for a while. What working with Ganesha brought to me was the notion of that there was no place for the orgasmic birthing woman. And it was about the time there was a challenging of the class system in India. Elections are never perfect, and there is always some flaw in the feng shui of our location. Rituals that bring balance to space and time and ground the presence help ensure a successful ritual or event. Both work with capacity to bring us into good time, Tima Mundi and Magna Mundi. They are great to use before important events, and anything that requires an election will benefit from these as a foundation to whatever else you may use. The start of big projects can use these remedies to support overcoming issues in the election itself. They can be used to empower spiritual initiations, uplift graduations, even by simply placing them on the card or gift to the graduate. Bless you! For the beginning of journeys, by placing them in a vehicle, for moving to a new home, by placing them on mantle or frames of doors and windows. Using Tema Mundi series whenever I want greater support from the universe. It has a softer, more caring tone. It brings sense that there are powers in the reality that have our back and that there is a greater force supporting us in achieving success. It brings harmony with the forces of the solar system that are waiting to be called upon to make great things happen on this plane. It is great alone and supportive of the success of others, of other remedies, especially when remedy may need to alter other factors. To be successful when used with other remedies, experiments with putting it on the back of the neck, shoulders, back of the head, and other on the remedy of the front part of the body to enhance its supportive influence. Tema is significant, and when used alone, it supports creating works of lasting value. Books that are consequential, consultations that are meaningful, products with enduring significance. It also opens a multi-perspective understanding of our present world of extremes, where people tend to close their views. Harmonious mix of the planets and their wellness connects us to a wider range of perspectives, which then resonate with more people. The Tema Mundi, all the planets have one sign, which brings more gentle support, while the Magna Mundi has the planets empowered by all signs, therefore containing all oppositions. It's a stronger, more active, and more yang presence. Magna Mundi, when I want to push to move forward, this is why I was thinking about a Moldavite, I guess. It has all the same qualities described above, but with a more forceful impetus to get the job accomplished. Like again, don't urge me to work if you don't want to abolish rape. If you don't want to pave way for the microcosmic orbiting orgasmic birthing as life changes and next phases for each individual, and in that sense, don't try to oppress me or prevent me from being or doing what I came here to do. Because that in itself will compoundly collapse. And that is true to every individual. It makes events seem more accelerate as more of their interconnected parts begin moving into place. Not in the sense of making something happen sooner, like expedite, but in getting more pieces of the process into motion. Yeah. It brings a greater alertness that can be focused to accomplish more, and it also increases the amount happening around you, both in the moment and throughout the day. Now think about it. Yeah. My first utilization of the remedy had projects that were dragging suddenly begin receiving phone calls and gaining the momentum needed to move forward, while the TM supports other remedies by gently working out issues and blockages. To accomplish their goals, the project pushes results more forcefully. Each has its place. I would mix it with anything that we want to work quickly, but that has a lot of moving parts that need to be worked out to make it happen. Yeah, I definitely am in that situation. Maybe a bit too much for someone with ADHD to use regularly. Okay. Stabilizing and centering scents such as sandalwoods, which have been working with, but I will continue to work with, and able to utilize everything that offers without it being too overwhelming. For the slower, more procrastinating types, the Magna Mundi is particularly beneficial. Whichever is more fitting, having one of those remedies for important events is wise. For anybody doing regular rituals or beginning events with elections in order to increase the likelihood of success and the fulfillment of their intentions. Honoring the feminine is all I have to say. For those who do not use elections, applying these remedies to an important event that ideally would have had an election is the best thing one can do. Okay? Like I said, a person who is raped doesn't have a purchasing power. And that's important to note when we think about business. Like, I think about it for myself. Like, my business should be abolishing rape, not causing people to be raped, and definitely not putting an ultimatum in the sense as, oh, you can work here, you don't have to be raped. No, 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 no. The rape was occultistic to prevent them from working, and they need to not be raped first. Just like a homeless person doesn't need a job, they need a home. The candles used for the magnum working are the same ones burned on the Tema altar, since the central Luna and Sol, unification of the sects, began being lit on the first and second day of the seven total. They are much shorter than some others. I'm also going to save that to my phone. I like the peach color came about, and the peach color has been accompanying me since 2007. It's a color that matches me a lot. I don't understand this color because I understand like the colors of the seven chakras, and peach would be like not really orange, somewhat pink, somewhat brown, somewhat yellow. It has to do with creativity, fertile creation. The candles used for the magnum working are the same ones burned on the Tima's altar. Um, Returning to the dreams of June 14, one of the most notable parts was staying at the hotel and walking into the bathroom. The light was off and it was dark. I switched the light on and it was immediately struck by this horrifying reflection of smaller humanoids entity standing to my right side, slightly behind me. It was reminiscent of playing Bloody Mary, but by accident, and seeing the girl from the ring next to myself in the mirror opposite. I turned the light off and it switched it back the second time, hoping it would go away, but she was still there. That disturbed me to no end, and I ran to dose myself with Deneb Algidi Colonia. Applying it made the entity go away for a little while, but not for long. I remained horrified by the knowledge she was always there, even when I could not see her, and then came to realize that what I saw in the reflection was my own shadow. Thinking about the song is just your shadow on the floor. Upon waking and processing with Austin, the Magnum tie-ins were obvious. It's a dark, and then the light were turned on twice, incorporation and activation of the dual luminaries, the luminaries which both oppose Saturn, the zodiac terms representing at its basest the darker, dirtier, more shrunken elements of life, the material world, and our very selves. In the mirror, Magnum creates a mirror of Timondi, where two of me, a light twin and a dark twin. The Gemini oppositional forces at play, turning on the light, revealing all. I revealed disdain and apathy by coming over and making a point of letting the pain linger before spilling some liquid on my back and left shoulder and finally unclasping it. The girl expressed she was only there waiting to see what I would produce for her and her male partner, magically and materially, again with the sets of two people, and she had no actual interest or investment in my personal well-being beyond what I could provide for them. In inferring I had better get back to work, I observed that the bra was a white lacy number with a rose and thorn design, and the stains from the left liquid were yellow. I had to fix and untwist something before putting it back on. The briefing I connected with the white and the yellow colors to the flower in the final luminary bouquet. Inspired by the sun and moon palette, in addition the fact that the brassiere wrapped round and certain and contained Cancer and Leo ruled parts of the body, the heart and the breasts. Tools of the mother for nurturing life. It made me think about the transition from Saturn to the 7th and 8th houses. A lot of losses, debts, divorces, encumbered assets. Our bodies and our belongings, our personal perspectives and assets. Our relationship and the opposers. It will activate everything, whichever and whatever needs activated. I definitely felt more attunement with the astrological chart. And it kind of brings everything so that that can be remediated or addressed, if that makes sense. Oliva Dean, Lady, the universe. The cliffhanger ending is somewhat intentional. Magnum has her own plans for you. No, we are the sovereign. Like people, and the write-up will continue to be written in the ether and the client community by each person's own experience. Shipping will begin this week and continue with the great work is done. Bottling Timomundi. Okay. Okay. Thema for growth, Magnum for material management. I actually felt maybe the opposite. Because with Thema Mundi, it was like, hey, enough with those trafficking. And with the Magnum, is like, okay, taking actual steps to begin to quest businesses. What are they? How are they intending to support women rights? The risk of religiousification, um, anointing of oil of Magnum Mundi. And again, trying to hurt people ends up with cancer. I'm having actually a little bit of actual meat here, and I know that the access that when the animals roam free, that meat is actually less cancerous. And sexual boundary violation harms the ability. It causes cancer, and this is where the herding of people or cattle causes cancer. And it can also cause infanticide and all kinds of world population um, anointing oil of Magnum Mundi. Scented with natural essential oils, precious absolutes, and CO2s, white gold. drops from the original Temamundi mother globe, which holds the remedial grade pearl, ruby, emerald, diamond, red and coral, yellow sapphire, and blue sapphire. 24-karat gold and fine silver. Silver and gold unification. Arrives in a perspective of Myron violet, glass bottles stamped with original artwork. Each order includes a here's the thing, the vision of no rape world cannot be, how should I say that? When we think about, oh, a vision has to be shared, amazing. The vision of a no rape world is not something that can be not shared. Okay, it's like nobody can say, oh, you force your vision upon people. No. Okay, that's, and it's not about, and it's the life, it is basically making paths for life on not just Earth, but any Earth. Hello there. Each order includes a sacramental treat spiced with Magnum Mundi, homemade by our team at Sphere and Sundry. Yeah. And by the way, this is also the time to be expressing my appreciation to the people that were supporting and healing, and make it incredibly accentuate. There's no settings in which sexual boundary violation is okay, and all those settings where the sexual boundary the sexual boundary violation undermines every setting, every vision, every legacy, every peace, and even every war. So um, um, violet glass. I would need a pipette probably. $390. If I can, let's see, the price range is from the 150 to, probably I will be able to access the 150 sooner, but I'm placing the bet on this one because I want to buy this one. So this is what I actually want, and I'm going to take the actions toward what I actually want, and then see if, let's see if the money's. Okay, and the money is exactly on par with that, in line with that vision. The money can only money where there's no rape. And when there is rape, nothing compounds to anything. And particularly when it comes to, not particularly, but also when it comes to people having their testimony or speaking up, then and the people try to put them through what they spoke up with, and then abolishing that pattern as well. So yeah. Duties and tariffs. Okay, makes sense. And this is